I'm honored to introduce Elisabeth Rochat de la Valleé, who is a world-renowned sinologist, especially medical sinologist. I've been her student for many years, and actually almost 20 years ago, I was first introduced to this amazing story about the discovery of a banner from the 2nd century BC, which took me about 10 years to have the insight of what I've heard from Elisabeth about the whole process of dying and what happens after death, and actually the process of living that you can conclude and understand from it and its relation to Chinese medicine. So we have this special opportunity to study with Elisabeth in depth and get a deeper understanding of this amazing discovery and insight into the origin of Chinese medicine and the origin of what happens actually when somebody dies. So all the floor to Elisabeth, and as I said, I'm honored and great, and I'm sure it will be an inspiring lecture. Hi, Elisabeth.
Thank you, Yahya. So, and thank you for welcoming me in your TCM Academy.
Thank you.
So, unfurled before your eyes, you have this sumptuous Chinese painting from the first half of the 2nd century BCE. In fact, it was discovered in a tomb, a grave, which was sealed, closed in around 168 BCE. We can see on this banner, as it is called generally, the embrace of dragons, of legendary animals. We can see a lot of animals, of tortoise, geese, sun and moon, and also people, person, either in a kind of noble attitude or in moving somewhere. So we may also have strange beings, half animals or dragon of birds and half humans. So with a lot of splendid painting and beauty. So this painting has a meaning, a very deep meaning, and even a kind of use in the mind of the people who have it made and buried with the corpse of a lady. So, in fact, this painting is usually called the Wang Dui funeral banner. So, it was called like that because the archaeologists believe that in the city of Changsha, in the nowadays Henan, so they were a tomb of the 10th century AD, belonging to the family of the prince of Ma. So, Dui means tomb, so the tomb of the Prince Ma family. So, but when they opened the tombs, there were 3 tombs in this burial site. So, and when they opened it around 1971-72, they discovered, in fact, 3 tombs dating back to the Han dynasty, which is roughly 2 centuries before and 2 centuries after Common Era, and more especially belonging to the father, the mother, and the son of very high people, noble people of this city of Changsha around this time before 168 BCE. So now, when they open these 3 tombs, the one of the father of the what is called the Marquis of Tai, who was the governor general of the city of Changsha, these tombs have been opened and violated in 1 second, so there were nothing interesting in it. But the two other tombs, the tomb of his wife, who died around the age of 49, something like that, and the tomb of their son, just contain incredible richnesses in objects, artifacts, as well as in books, manuscripts. So that is another story, of course, and we don't have time here to go through all these fantastic discoveries which were made at that time. So the tomb number 1 was the tomb of the lady who is called the Marquise of Tai. And in fact, when the excavation was done, the archaeologists found a burial chamber which was in an extraordinary state of conservation because it has been isolated and protected not only by those who built these burial chambers, but also by the spatial nature of the ground, of the soil around. So it's the reason why in this burial chamber we had a lot of objects and things absolutely in an incredible state of preservation. So, and when I speak of a burial chamber, I speak of something common at that time for a burial place among, of course, the noble people of the high society. We are only speaking of people of the high society. So it is a kind of box, a big box like that, you know. I put the dimension here in centimeter, and inside of it there is this kind of division with, on the side, this kind of chamber or box called a burial chambers box, where there is all kind of objects, artifacts, and eventually manuscripts and books. And in the center, there is 3 coffins, which is also the usual way to burial at that time, to have several coffins, one inside the other one. So, and the third one is the one containing the corpse. I put the dimension also, and it is the height. So, and this banner was just put on this last coffin containing the body of the Marquise of Tai. So, now, the banner itself certainly symbolizes the dead person oneself. So it was a kind of representation of the soul, the spirit of this lady, and also a kind of talisman to guide her and to protect her in her way to the afterlife, to paradise. So, and after have been carried most probably and held in front of the burial, the funeral procession, when coming to the burial site, this banner has been put directly on the last coffin. So here are the dimensions of this banner. So now, what we have in fact here is a story of life and death, and of life after death. So this banner, this painting, with all the symbolism in the animals, the beings, the dragon, the color, and so on, this painting, in fact, represents the belief and the hope of the woman buried with it or under it. Because all the objects and books and so on found in these two tombs of the mother and the son, we are pretty sure that these people buried there were in fact adept of junction, of nourishing life, school, and that they really believe in the possibility of a life after death, most especially with the preservation of the soul of the earth in the earth, and the guidance and a way to go to heaven with also the celestial souls. So this, in fact, this banner represents how the souls of this human person who was the Marxists now are traveling in their own way, returning to the earth and the depths of the earth, for the soul belonging to the earth, being earth in a human being, and which are called the pro soul, finding their way to paradise or to heavens, for the souls in a human belonging to heaven, being heaven in me, and which are the own souls. In fact, it is easy to see, even in this picture, a kind of representation of the own and poor souls on the disguise of, for instance, the three ladies in the waiting following the Marquises here, for the three Hun, or for the people participating to the funeral banquet. Here there are 7 persons as representative of the 7 poor souls. Because when we have a painting, which is interesting, is how can we paint what is invisible? You know, it's a kind of challenge. But also, it gives us a unique opportunity to grasp directly something always they had in this period of time, in this place of China, in the south, which is also important, and with certain belief, to represent the faith, the hope in a life which is not reduced to the visible or corporeal life of nowadays that we have right now. So, and another thing that we can have from this banner is that even if we need some kind of explanation to understand the symbolism and so on, so nevertheless, we also have a kind of direct relationships, a direct understanding through the form, the color, and the movement, for instance, of what is yin-yang. These 2 dragons here are the representative of the yin-yang in their beginning in the underworld, in the either world, the world below, underground, rising to embrace. And here, when they are back to back, we have just nothing. And perhaps here, how this yin and yang are also represented in this heaven above, heaven and earth, where they are face to face, when they are no more making life by interaction, intermingling, and transformation. It's another kind of life. It is towards this other kind of life, paradise of immortality represented here, that this woman, this lady, is trying to go. through all kind of dangers, but also with all kind of protection. So, and on her way, on her journey, she is on her journey to immortality, to the life after death, and it is entirely based on, of course, on the life that we have represented here, coming from the depths and coming from above, from heaven and from earth, between heaven and earth, in the embrace of the yin-yang. The beings are coming to life. When they died, they return to their origin, they return to the earth and the depths of the earth, and they return to what belongs to heaven, and they even may be able, if they work enough during their life on that, they might be able even to go behind death and life, behind heaven and earth, and all kind of cycle of life between heaven and earth, and to reach the life which is constant, with no transformation, which is life behind death and life.
Elisabeth, I just want to cap up and say something about the banner that you mentioned, that it's really made of 3 parts.
Yeah.
And this is the earthly parts, and this is made of 2, and this is the heavenly part. And in starting from earth, we have the area of the paw, then we have the area of the hun, and then we move to a different dimension. And later on, you will talk about these different parts. Mm-hmm. And I think the beauty of it, as you said, here we have all the transformation to do with earth, and we move slowly with the deceased spirit towards heaven. So the banner represents this movement of the spirit, or the parts of the spirit, from earth to heaven. And that's one of the first times we can see this kind of display in a picture.
Absolutely, certainly the earliest that we have. There were several paintings like that. Certainly, we found another one in the tomb of the sun, number 2, but it was damaged. So they were a kind of common making for this family at that time, okay? Not necessarily everywhere or for anybody, but yes, and we have other painting from other tombs, even more ancient, but they are a lot less descriptive and so on. Very often it's just a representative of a journey, for instance, on a boat with a bird and a fish, very simple, you know. So this one is very rich, certainly also because it is from what was the south of China at the time. So a very great richness in legends, mythology, and a kind of effervescent imagination. Yeah.
And to me, the beauty of it is its relation also to what we know and learn later on in Chinese medicine, like the 7th part of the paw represented here, the 3 parts of the hun, and this movement and whole idea of hun and paw, yin and yang, and the movement from earth to heaven, when life begins and also when life ends.
Absolutely. And also, this banner is a painting which did not come with just a kind of manual of interpretation or any kind of text. We do not have any name, any text, nothing. So we understand it through text, classical text, from the same period of time, and even more especially from the same geographical area. So, for instance, the Rhine and the, it's very interesting for that. Sure. And all what I will explain is based entirely on this text. Now, if it is something of value, it describes how these people were able to see the movement of life, how lives originate and manifest, transform, and finish, or pass to another kind of dimension. So, but to understand what is afterlife, we have also to understand the great movement making life first, you know. So the origin and the end are always linked. So, and it is the reason why we may also put on this banner other illustrations that we have of the total organization of this movement of life. For instance, as we will see, we can see the triple heater if we like. Of course, it is not made for that. But the triple heater is also a way to look at the great organization of all the movement of life. So why not? It may fit. But another time, it is absolutely not made for that. Those who paint this banner had no idea of a triple heater. Yeah. But yes, we may find analogy. Yeah. And as long as we call them just my own analogy, we are totally free to use a banner to illustrate the visions that we have of the movement of life through Chinese medicine.
Before we will move to the description of each part of the banner, each part of the three parts of the banner, Elisabeth will describe the whole banner as a whole and the way you can understand it as a total.
Yeah. In fact, most probably, the lady who died, who is buried here, is represented here. And you can see that she has a kind of garment, a kind of cloth, mixing several colors. And so, and these three ladies in the waiting have each one color or one main color for their garment, so as representing the three runes. This is then, this lady has with her heavenly part, the part of her which after she died has to ascend to heaven and is already on its way. Here we have a kind of separation. If we look, we can see that we have a kind of separation here, here, and here. So, in fact, when we are under this kind of white beam, we are already outside the human life. The human life is, in fact, here. Life that we are now is in this part of the banner where we have the crossing and meeting, exchange of the yin and the yang between heaven and earth, so heaven above and earth below and so on, and the production of all the beings, the life of all the beings coming from this yin-yang junction between heaven and earth, leading to the life of the human between heaven and what is above, and earth and what is below, until, for instance, with here, all it may represent all the life of the human with banquet, eating, rejoicing with musical stones and so on, or it may also be, most specifically, the funeral banquet in which we find here something which might be, as we will see, either the meat for the banquet, funeral or not, or the place, a kind of coffin, the coffin with the corpse of the lady, and what the corpse belonging to the earth, we cover with a garment or veil of exactly the same colors than the garment of the lady here. So she is here now in a separation of the Hun and Po. So she has her life was there. And so part of her, the very body, the corpse itself, as well as the poor soul, will return to the earth, to the deep of the earth or the sea, it is the same thing, on the underground. And from this underground, we will have also always the search of what is needed to nourish a new life, but always under the inspiration coming from above. So, and all this inspiration coming from above is heaven and earth, and is also, as I said, coming from behind heaven and earth, from what is heaven as the absolute, the pure life behind life and death, so which is here represented with a lot of symbols and allusion to legend and myth, because of course here we are in what is absolutely formless and invisible. So, but there is a way to evocate, to suggest something like that in this painting. So, what we call it the paradise, if you like. So, we may divide this banner in two parts, you know, the upper part, where we are in the formless, when we are in the spirit, if you like, so, and the second part, when we are in the life that we know made by heaven and earth together. We may divide this part of heaven and earth also in three parts, as we just saw, or we may also divide this banner in three parts: the upper part, the lower part with all what belongs to the body, to the form, and a kind of median part, which is in fact the kind of the hope and pilgrimage, the journey of the lady toward what she hopes is waiting for her. In the next part, we start to explain each of the portion or section of this banner separately.